Hello again, guys. Welcome back to our lesson. In today's lesson, we are going to review a little bit about the past, but we're going to learn how to talk about general experiences in our past and probably also understand how we can express those experiences in English. So, I'm showing you some pictures of different types of food. Have you ever tried this type of food? This type of food is known as pork and beans, and it's very popular, and it's a typical food of Yucatan that we know as frijol con puerco. Have you ever visited Yucatan? Have you ever been to Merida? Have you ever tried pork and beans? What about the next picture? Have you ever tried cochinita? Do you like cochinita? As you can see, I'm showing you pictures of different types of food, and I'm asking you about your experience with those types of food. What about this picture? Oysters. Have you ever tried oysters? Do you like seafood? Yep. Have you ever tried any exotic or strange food? In all of those questions, and if you answer yes, I have, no, I haven't, we are practicing talking about experiences. How do we express experiences in the past in English? Well, normally we talk about experiences using the present perfect. We use the present perfect to talk about an action that started in the past but continues up to the present. So the action started in the past, continued in the past, and now it's relevant or affects the present in some way, continues up to the present. We also use it to describe experiences or actions that started in the past, but that are still relevant in the present. Let me show you some examples so you understand better how the present perfect works. So I can express experiences like we have visited Canada 2 times. She has never eaten tlayudas. I've seen that film before. The 3 examples indicate an experience that occurred in the past, and now that I'm talking about the experience, well, it's relevant now. We can also use it to talk about events that started in the past, continued in the past, and they are relevant or they continue up to now, the present. For example, Sam has studied English for 2 years. We understand that Sam started English in the past, but now in the present, she's still studying English, right? So Sam has studied English for 2 years. I've played the guitar since I was a teenager, and I have worked here since I graduated school. So I graduated school, I started working, and now in the present, I'm still working here. So there is a connection between the past with the present. I have worked here since I graduated school. All those examples indicate an experience or something that is in the past but connected to the present. Notice that when I use the present perfect, what is more important is actually the event, the activity, or the experience. It's not very common to indicate when the activity occurred. We know that it started in the past, but it's important now, so we don't make reference to the past, right? I can indicate how many times the experience or the activity occurred. For example, in the Canada trip, in the first example, I say, we have visited Canada 2 times. When? Not mentioned. It's not important, right? She has never eaten tlayudas. Never. Not even 1 time. When? It's not important. The important thing is the experience or the event, right? So remember, with present perfect, it's the structure that we use to introduce an experience in the past And in this moment, it's not relevant to mention when. If you want to indicate when or give more details about that experience, you can do that. And you need to use the past simple, because the past simple is the structure that we use to talk about the past and also be specific about when the activity is occurring in the past. But present perfect most of the time is for experiences. The first time I mention an experience in English, it's very likely that I use the present perfect. Okay, now we know how to use the present perfect. When I talk about an experience, right, the first time, how do I create my sentences with the present perfect? Of course, I need a person or a subject, we, she, Sam, Maria, etc. Then I need a verb that helps me create this structure. It's have and has. But remember that I need to conjugate have and has depending on my subject, right? So we use have for I, you, we, they. And for John, Maria, Laura, he, she, it, I use has, right? So after that, I need to use my verb or the main activity. But check that the verb or the activity, it's in a different form. It's not in the base form or the present form, and it's not in the past form either, right? So it's in the participle form. Remember that this verb eaten, it's the participle form of ate and eat, right? Eat is the present, ate is the past, and the participle form is eaten, right? So that's how I create a sentence in present perfect. My subject, have or has, and then the verb in participle form. So I have eaten an apple. John has eaten an apple. For the negative, I just introduce not. So we haven't or we have not eaten an apple. I can also use never. I can substitute not and put never. But remember that never, it's a strong idea of inexistence. So that hasn't happened at all. So you don't have the experience at all. So it's an extreme word that indicates not. You can say she has never, we have never visited Sonora. We have never been to the United States. We have never watched animation movies before. Yep, so you can substitute not with never. And for questions, we just change the position of the auxiliary have or has. We put have or has at the beginning, and we change the position with the subject, and we say, have you eaten an apple? Have you ever been in love? Have you ever traveled abroad? Yep. Has she eaten an apple? And that's how we create questions with the present perfect to talk about experiences. So let's imagine that I have this question. Have you visited Guadalajara before? We can answer, yes, I have, or no, I haven't. And you can give more information about the question. Like, have you visited Guadalajara before? Yes, I have. I've visited Guadalajara almost 6 times. Remember that it's not important when. What is important in the present perfect is the experience, the event. And you can mention how many times you've experienced that activity or that event. Check that we can use contractions. Contractions are very common in spoken English. And check the pronunciation of the contraction. For I have, we say I've, right? I've. And we can also use the other contractions with the other subjects. So you can say you've, she's, we've, they've. Be careful with the pronunciation. Some people make mistakes with the pronunciation. But it's very common that we use contractions for I have, you have, she has, etc. So I've, you've, she's, we've, and they've. Yep. So, okay. let's recap. Present perfect, we use it for experiences. The first time we mention an experience or something that occurred in the past and continues now in the present, we use the present perfect. We create the present perfect with the subject, yeah, and have or has, and then we put the verb in participle form. Yep. And the contractions are very common, and it's important that we remember the pronunciation with the contractions. Now, participle forms are important in the structure of present perfect. And the difficult part of participle forms is in the irregular verbs, because regular verbs are the same. If you check my example here, visited is the past of visit, and the participle form is also visited. So I'm using visited here because it's the participle form of visit. The past and the participle are the same for regular verbs. But for irregular verbs, you know that we need to memorize them, right? So irregular verbs change not only the past but also the participle form. So let's just remember some of the very common verbs that we have in English. So for write, the past of write is wrote. Yeah. Be, was, were, go, went, have, had, read, read, eat, ate, fall, fell, and know, knew. The participle forms of those verbs are written for the first one. Yeah. We have been for verb to be, gone or been for go. We use been when we are talking about visiting a place, right? So have you been to the United States? That's an example. Have, had, they are the same. Read, remember that the past is read and the participle is also read. So it's the same, read, read. For eat, we have ate and eaten. Fall, the participle of fall is fallen. And know, knew, known. So it's very important that we practice our irregular participle forms, because when we're speaking, well, we need them almost immediately to be able to create a correct sentence in present perfect. So that's the important part of present perfect. And remember that the structure and the different parts are important, especially when we're speaking, in order to be fluent when we speak in English. Thank you very much, guys. I suggest you practice this and you study and you do your activities, and then we will practice some more and we will check the difference between the past simple and the present perfect. Thank you very much. See you next time.